I'm going to introduce the legend, United States track and field legend coach, the second in U.S. history, Dr. Joe I. Vigil.
I was in Chicago a couple of years ago for the marathon, and I had a young runner by the name of Diego Estrada from Salina, California. And very talented runner, but sometimes not too positive mentally. And I detected this in him. Finally, the last thing I told him before the marathon started, I said, Diego, if you ever drop out of a race, get yourself another coach. And he remembered that. The second refreshment station, he trips over a bottle. And he sprained his ankle. He got up, he started jogging on it. It was painful, but he remembered what I told him. And he continued running and forgot about that sprain the rest of the way. 30 kilometers with a sprained ankle. Well, he really succeeded. He was the highest finishing American and third overall in Chicago. And made more money than he'd ever made in his life. Anyway, by the time I got to him, they had him in a wheelchair, and television was interviewing him. And they said, why didn't you drop out? The ankle was 4 or 5 times its original size. He said, I didn't want to lose my coach. So finally I got there, and he pointed me out and said, oh, you're the mean guy, are you? But anyway, whenever you engage in any plan in life, don't lose sight of that plan. Because everybody has stumbling blocks along the way. You got to overcome them, no matter what the challenge is. And that's what I try to teach my runners.
I would not have been able to have ran it or completed it had not been for Billy. Because Billy, I was racing. I was a racer. I was going to get to a race. He says, this is not a race. This is a competition with your body to make sure you can get through 26 miles. We got to the first aid station where he said, now drink the water. I got the water deal and I stuck it in my eye. He said, you have to stop, stupid, and drink it all. And so I did. So I got through that race, and eventually, you know, it's a 5 mile loops, if I remember right, and then a distance on the end of it that gives it that extra 300 and some odd yards. So with about 3 or 4 laps to go, we kept getting further and further behind. I said, Billy, they're getting ahead. He said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And with a lap to go, and he did. He had a bad back. He said, my back's killing me, George. He said, I can't finish. I said, what am I going to do? And he said, well, you can go after them now. And so I did, and I ended up winning it. And then I'm thinking, you know what? That's not very smart. They're going to want you to run in the Olympic Games now. And so I told people, they asked me, how many did you run? I said, I ran 2 because I wasn't very smart.
Training the mind. It's unbelievable what belief can do for you. You should concentrate on what you're doing, the pace, how you feel at that pace. Running repeat miles, tempo runs, whatever it is. Know how you feel and know what you're supposed to do. But don't forget about the objective at hand in anything you do. So I try to focus on these things, but more importantly, mental toughness.
So as the race went on, there was an FBI agent, a US FBI agent on the side of the road that told me I was in 12th place. And I thought, oh my God, 12th place, and I see a girl in front of me, so if I catch her, I'm gonna be in 11th. And then there was another girl up the road, and I'm like, I think I can catch her. She's kind of staggering down the road. And so it was just one at a time. And these are the best athletes in the world that are throwing up on the roadside, staggering, mismanaging their paces. And I was catching them like so quickly, just reeling them in. And then I remember being in 4th place, but seeing the lights of the stadium, like, oh no, I think I might be running out of time. But then I saw the silhouette of a runner in front of me, and as I got closer, it was Elfnesh Alemu from Ethiopia, and she looked over her shoulder. Like, racers out there, are you supposed to do that? You never look over your shoulder. It's like blood in the water. And so I, like, with my perfect posture, as perfect as I could make my posture, and holding my breath so it looks like this is just a walk in the park for me, and pumping my arms and just batting my lashes as I went by a little bit, I passed her. But right as I passed her, someone on the sidelines in perfect English yelled, "Good job, girl, you're in 4th place." And I thought, what? My math. Like, did I miscount? Like, I couldn't, like, subtract 1 every time I passed somebody? And so I said, you know what? I'm just gonna keep my mission going, and I'll wait until I come into the stadium to figure out what place I'm in. And so it was this lady's booming voice when I came into the Panathinaikos Stadium, and in Greek, she said my name, but I couldn't understand what came after that. And then she said something in French, and at the moment I thought, I wish I took French in high school instead of Spanish, so I understood what she said. And then finally, Gary Hill, who's the editor of Track and Field News, came over the loudspeaker and said, Deena Kastor is going to capture the bronze medal. And I bawled my eyes out around the last lap of that track, and I'm a horribly ugly crier. Ugly crier, but I immediately was able to pinpoint my family in the stadium, and Andrew showed me where Coach was sitting, so I ran up to Coach. So it was like so amazing to me, what felt like a very intimate moment with my team, caught on worldwide television. But a truly incredible moment to know that that collaboration of all that work that Andrew talked about that went into that summer, that build up, and that we did it.
My best memory of Alamosa is really post-run, sitting in the campus cafe and sharing war stories of the day's workouts with salt-crusted foreheads from sweating through Rock Creek and Forbes Tranchera and along the county roads here to being able to share those stories right after they happen and share the suffering and the good times we had. Getting the best out of ourselves that morning is definitely the most iconic memories I have here.
Well, it was tremendously exciting to be in Alamosa because it was the first Olympic marathon trials. It was the first time we were going to have one race, do or die. We all knew 3 people make the team. The rest of us go limping back with tears wiping out of our eyes. I was not in my best form then. I had won the Boston Marathon, but I had gotten injured. I actually knew I wasn't going to make the team, so it was a difficult time for me. But it was also exciting because Alamosa was the center of the running universe for a month that summer.
It was my first true experience seeing athletes of an international level and watching them and thinking to myself, but they're human. You know, they're just people. And that's very important, I think, for young athletes to have that kind of experience, to realize these are just people, and like you, and it's the training that makes the difference. So in a way, this is the serendipity of where it all started.
I started coaching as a football coach in 1955. And the head football coach was a track coach. And he had his first call for track that spring. And only 3 boys showed up. And he looked around. He was a former football player at Oklahoma. And he said, if this is all we're going to have here for track, we're not having track this year. And I just showed up to see what was going on. And I turned around and I looked at him. The tears were coming down these boys' cheeks. And I'll never forget, I went home sort of hurt. And I said to myself, I'm going to try to do something to help those guys. I didn't have the love of track then that I do now. So I go back to school the next day and I talked to the football coach. I said, would you be offended if I try to help him? He said, no. He was happy to get rid of him. He sent me to the principal. The principal sent me to the superintendent. It took him 2 weeks to say, yes, you can coach him. When I left, he said, but I want you to understand that there's no extra money for you and there's no budget. That wasn't what I was after. I just wanted to help him. I'd throw him in the car every Saturday. We had 14 high schools here in the valley, and we'd find a meet here and there to go to. Well, lo and behold, the 3 boys qualified for the state meet in Boulder. And I went downtown. I didn't have a budget, and I saw a few businesses, and I collected $175 to go to Boulder. We packed some sandwiches for the guys. We all slept in one room. I remember sleeping on the floor. All 3 of them qualified in the state meet to place. But from that very day, when those guys placed in the state meet, I said, this is for me. The marathoners that we have here have been introduced for 2 days now, and we know about them. So now, Ellen, come back. I'm here. All right. We didn't have track and field for ladies when she was going to school. That was before 1975. And she and Chris Paulette used to come out and run with the team, and I welcomed them. Anyway, Chris became a dedicated runner. And of course, when the marathoners came in, she blames her job dishing out ice cream to meeting Bill Clark, Captain Bill Clark. But it was actually, he was attracted to her. And she continued running, lives in Los Altos, California now, and is still running, and she ran the race this morning. So with her beauty and her grace, she's going to help me out with the awards tonight. Amby Burfoot, would you come up here, please? Quickly, Amby. Down there, down there.
Down over here.
Ellen is going to put a medal around your neck, signifying this event.
Excellent. Do I get to kiss the Queen?
Yes. Bill Clark. Where's Bill at?
He's coming.
Oh. Quicker, Bill. These guys act like they ran a marathon yesterday. Several weeks ago, I got on the phone and talked to Dave Costel. I said, Dave, why don't you give me a couple of items that you've done that's outstanding in your life? Coach, I haven't done anything. He says, I have lectured in 27 different countries, and I got my 400 and something article approved for publication, but he's never done anything. The guy that motivated me to go get my PhD. Dave Costel, please come forward. Robert Dynas, American record holder in the 50 mile. Fourth in the Olympic trials in Alamosa.
I wonder if I was finally going to get a medal for that race.
Yeah, I finally got one. I started coaching in high school in 1955, a few years ago. And there was a guy in Cortez, Colorado, running high school that I met, Jan Frisbee. Where you at? Stand up. Jan Frisbee was on the high school team at Cortez. And he used to come over here and run against the athletes at Alamosa High School. And since then, he's never quit running. He's had tough days, but he's run the marathon, he's run all distances, and I've known about him all these years. It's been good to know you, Jan. About 2 years ago, I had the good fortune to get invited to go to the Jemez Pueblo and speak to multiple groups of people. And I didn't want to go down there unless I guaranteed that they would take me to see Steve Gauchapin, which they did. And we had a delightful cup of coffee at his house. Steve, where you at? Hustle up here, buddy. The king of the mountain, 7-time winner of the Pikes Peak Marathon. The legend is he could run faster uphill than he could downhill. And I believe he could. He went back to Jemez and started coaching in the high school and is still coaching a bit. So let's give him a big hand. Tom Heineman. You're running like those guys from Oregon. Tom was a women's coach at the University of Oregon and ran for the famous coach that he had there. Did a great job. He's from Minnesota, and he knew all my guys, Roy Griak, Pop Kelly, on and on and on. Edlin, of course. Hal Higdon. Damon said we were in the presence of greatness. This gentleman has written 46 books on running. And he ran, and he's done a great job, and has been a leader to many coaches in this country of ours. I wasn't in Tokyo in 1964, but I saw the finish of a young man by the name of Billy Mills when he overtook Gabuti, and he finished in a flurry to win the gold medal in the 10,000. Later on, we were in San Diego testing my runners, and he showed up to give a talk someplace. That's what he does today, to help out his foundation, Running Brave. And he said, why don't you bring your team over tonight, Coach, and I'll show you a movie. He ran in the Jack in the Box meet in San Diego indoors, where he broke the world record 6 miles indoor. But they never recognized him for it. Billy Mills, one of the great ones. My hero for a long time, Kenny Moore. Regardless of his obstacle, he's still faster than the other guys that came up here. Kenny has been to Alamosa several times. Prolific writer for Sports Illustrated. He came to interview Pat Porter on a couple of occasions after having run the marathon, and a great marathoner himself, probably a very celebrated Olympian that most people don't even remember. But Kenny, I know what you've done. You're a great one, and we love you. A couple of years ago, I was in Morristown, New Jersey, right across the river from New York, giving a clinic at a medical facility. And I gave a presentation, and a guy by the name of Gary Murky showed up to say hello. Gary Murky. And they told me there was a guy back there that wanted to say hello to me. And he looks at me and said, Coach, aren't you going to say hello? I ran in Alamosa in 1968. Operates a sporting goods store in New York, and we've been friends ever since.
I wanted to check to see if you were still alive.
Gary, I got news for you, buddy. I have about 8 or 9 things on my bucket list before I go on. John Peterson, John Peterson was working on a graduate degree in psychology, and he came here to train. Stay here for a minute, John. Ran in northern Illinois, and finally he goes back to Illinois and gets a job, and he got a girlfriend. So I took my sabbatic to work on my PhD. In the first classroom I went into, he was a student in there. So we were students. So he was crying on my shoulder. I sure miss my girlfriend, Coach. Says, I love her. I said, God damn it, John, I'm tired of hearing that. Call her up and propose to her. And I'll be darned if he didn't. Stand up. I'll never forget when this runner from Taos, New Mexico came here. He was a student at Yale, running for my good friend Bob Giegengak, who was the chairman of the Olympic Committee when I was on it, men's track and field committee. Frank Shorter, where are you at? Frank Shorter ran here in '68, didn't complete the marathon, but 4 years later he was a gold medalist in Munich. Unbelievable. He now helps out with the Boulder, one of the great races of America. Rick Baviatis, where you at? Better known as the Galloping Greek from Cherry Creek. Stay here for a minute, Rick. He had been here a couple of years when I got hired in '65. He was playing football, played a little basketball, very talented athlete. One day he comes out and says, Coach, do you mind if I come out for cross country and try to get in shape for basketball, I believe it was. He was going to try to make the team. And at that time, I only had a handful of guys. I said, sure, but don't cause any ripples. Anyway, he came out, and he never went out for another sport. He continued to run. Ran the national meet in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, the 10K one night, and he and Buddy Edlin ran the Jackrabbit 15 the next Sunday morning, a 15-miler. Rick retired from Porterville, California, and I don't know if you remember this, but you met a gal from Michigan in California. You sent me an invitation to your wedding. I was going to school at the University of Toledo, studying under David Lamb, and he got married in Detroit, 30 miles away, and he was shocked when he saw me at his wedding. That was the same summer that Jim Ryan got married. And he sent me a wedding invitation and says, Coach, I know you probably can't come from Colorado, but I'm getting married in a suburb of Columbus, Ohio. And I told him I would try to get there, but that was it. And it was the same summer I was at Toledo. And I got in the car and drove 110 miles from Toledo to Columbus. And I was at his wedding as well. Anyway, Rick, we've been proud of you all these years, buddy. George Young. Please come up here. You probably are looking at the most celebrated Olympian here tonight. He's made many Olympic teams, coached at Casa Grande Community College for I don't know how many years, and I followed his career. He had many great national championship teams and junior college All-Americans. It was unbelievable. We've always been proud of you, and if we want to say something nice about you, take it. Sit down. One of the most humble guys I've ever met. Another guy, Joe Head. Where you at, Joe? Come on up here, Joe. Stand up here for a minute. Physician's assistant from North Carolina. He calls me the Marine drill sergeant. And I'll tell you why. I follow the rules. We had a deadline for entries into the marathon. He showed up late. And I said, no, you can't enter. Anyway, he went to soft-hearted Buddy Edlin, and Buddy Edlin let him run. And I'm glad he did.
So am I.
Congratulations, and
Thank you very much.
it's been nice knowing you, buddy.